number from Ukraine's Air Force that of the 29 ballistic missiles fired into Ukraine by Russia in the most recent attack, none of them were intercepted, just really underscoring Ukraine's lack of air defense, lack of those U.S.-made Patriot missiles, which President Zelensky will be working to obtain more of. We heard that soundbite from him just a few moments ago. But another message from President Zelensky will be one of showing that Ukraine is no longer on the back foot, highlighting the success of Ukraine's long-range drone strikes into Russia. We heard him when he was speaking to the Defense Industry Forum there at the NATO conference, saying no major oil refinery left in Russia that has not been hit by Ukraine, really underscoring the success of those long-range strikes. And President Zelensky is keenly aware that U.S. President Donald Trump likes to be on the winning team. He said as much in an interview this week that President Trump wants to be where there's success. So President Zelensky will both be trying to ask for help from his allies and at the same time positioning Ukraine as the winning team.
Audrey McAlpine, thank you. From Ukraine to Moscow, and Yulia Shapovalova is there for us now, our Moscow correspondent. How will the Kremlin see all this? You heard the words of President Trump. Do they see this as a moment of opportunity for peace, and maybe a peace that favors Russia, or do they see it as a moment of danger?
Well, the Kremlin is obviously following closely this summit. We've heard that according to NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Moscow is still the main threat.
We're the world's most advanced program, built to control driver spend, managing travel expenses, protecting your AP. And our AI virtual assistant helps you identify spend abnormalities. Corpay.
Introducing the all-new Velotric Discover 3 e-bike. Designed for comfort, powered for hills and distance. From the first turn of the pedals, your ride's...
Russia hears discussions about scenarios of a possible direct military clash between Russia and the bloc. It's concerned about NATO countries' defense budget increase, as well as hypothetical risks of Kiev's request for nuclear weapons. The Russian side believes that all these steps do not contribute to peace, and Western actions are designed to support the conflict in Ukraine. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has just written that the direct escalation of tensions and the increasing budgets in the bloc will inevitably aggravate the strategic situation, and Europe is being increasingly pushed to a big war against Russia. So Russia is going to closely follow US President Donald Trump's visit to Kiev and his statements, because all these meetings and negotiations are going to directly affect the future of the Russian-Ukraine conflict.
Yulia in Moscow, thank you very much. Well, the war in Ukraine is one of the reasons that NATO allies are now spending more on their defence budgets. The NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, though, is also crediting Donald Trump. He says for the first time in 60 years, we have a US president who is making European allies pay their fair share. But will Donald Trump be satisfied?
Hello, my name is DrPaulCottrell. Thank you for joining. We are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Please help support the work that I do by being a paid member to my Patreon channel or Substack channel. You can also donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. All these videos for free, so please share the links, ask your social media to follow me, and help support the work that I do. We're going to go over some of the news. Right now, the equity market is not open yet. It'll open up in about 9 minutes for New York, but the equity futures for the S&P 500 are down. They're trading at 7,579, so expect the open to be down today. Right now, the VIX is relatively low. It's still just below 16. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to creep back up, but I think the open will be down. The currency market is stable. The euro relative to the dollar is at 1.14. The Japanese yen relative to the dollar is at 161.88. Oil is creeping up a little bit. We're going to cover it. It's related to Iran reportedly hitting or attacking some ships in the Strait of Hormuz. It's now at 69.47, so I wouldn't be surprised if we creep back up to about $72 a barrel. Right now, natural gas is trading at 3.217. I'm shorting natural gas and looking for a position to do a tactical long for the S&P 500 right now. Please help support the work that I do by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great products that I offer. I use these products every day, so it'll help to get healthy and to slow down the aging process. Two supplements that you should take every day: magnesium and zinc. Super important. It boosts up your immune system and helps with brain function. Magnesium is very important to start supplementing for brain function. Vitamin C and magnesium helps with the skin. They'll cross-link with the collagen when you drink filtered water. And also, vitamin C and magnesium will help to boost up the immune system and brain function. I highly recommend that you take them together, magnesium and zinc and the vitamin C and magnesium. Now, if you get the collagen, I recommend you to get the vitamin C and magnesium, drink the filtered water so it cross-links with the collagen to help with your dermal layer and improve your skin. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. All the links are in the description of this video and all my videos. So what we're going to do is listen into the report about Iran reportedly attacking ships in the Strait.
All right, straight into an alert. President Trump is set to touch down in Turkey just over an hour from now for the NATO summit, where he's going to meet with the Turkish president, meanwhile, before gathering with world leaders.
Meanwhile, Iran's military reportedly fired at least 2 missiles at commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday.
So they're still doing the same old stuff. Lucas Thomason live in Turkey with the latest. Good morning, Lucas.
Well, good morning, guys. Last night on the eve of this NATO summit here in Ankara, and while Iran holds that massive multi-day state funeral for the late Ayatollah, Iran attacked more ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Here's President Trump speaking about Iran before taking off in the new Air Force One on its first international trip.
Look, we're going to win one way or the other. We're either going to make a deal or we're going to finish the job, okay? And it won't be tough to finish the job. I'd rather make a deal because I don't want to affect 91 million people. We can knock down their bridges in 1 hour. We can knock out their energy supply, all of those big plants that they build.
One of the big questions looming over this 2-day summit: will President Trump allow Turkey back into the F-35 stealth fighter jet program? Turkey claims it has already invested $1.4 billion into it and planned to purchase 100 of the advanced 5th-generation stealth fighter jets, many we saw during the Great 250 celebrations in Washington and New York. Turkey was barred from purchasing them in 2019 when the NATO ally purchased the Russian S-400 air defense system. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has voiced strong opposition to allowing Turkey back into the F-35 program. Turkey's President Erdogan has had harsh words for Israel in recent years. Since the October 7th massacre, today Israel is currently the only country in the Middle East that operates F-35s.
Turkey is a great country, but it's governed by a man who calls openly for the annihilation of Israel. I don't think they should be given F-35s or the engines for their fighter jets, because that'll upset the power balance in the Middle East, which is ultimately guaranteed by Israeli air superiority and also by, I think, by America's posture in the Middle East.
As I mentioned off the top last night, Iran attacked commercial ships transiting southbound in the Strait of Hormuz using the channel off the coast of Oman. This is the preferred passage by the U.S. military to get commercial ships out of the Persian Gulf. Last night, an LNG tanker from Qatar was hit while making this passage, coming from the largest natural gas reservoir on Earth. Now, there are many other issues to discuss at this NATO summit, guys. Ukraine, Also, defense spending. President Trump has told Congress he wants to spend $1.5 trillion in defense spending next year. That's about 5% of U.S. economy, GDP. President Trump wants other NATO allies to match that. Some already are in Eastern Europe, at least by a GDP percentage. Many in Western Europe are not spending anywhere close to that, guys.
All right, thanks so much, Lucas. Of course, Spain, the worst offender. Canada has promised to spend more. Germany is actually buying more. So there's about a year and a half ago, and they're buying our equipment. Countries like France have decided to go a different direction when it comes to buying equipment. Good luck with that. We have to pick up the production to deliver. So if they're paying, it could be a huge profit engine for us. So I think if the president's talking about accomplishments, this is going to be listed as one of his great accomplishments. Understanding that making NATO understand they have to defend themselves for the first time since the 1950s. Really, since World War II ended, they always said, well, America's got our back. And they were highly critical of us at various times. But now they're going to have to step up. And because we have definitely pulled some of our troops out of there and some of our strength has left NATO. It's intentional.
You know, I think, Kayla, you know, the conversation has kind of shifted a little bit. You've seen these meetings between the Europeans where they're starting to have a conversation personally saying, oh, we may have to defend ourselves. Some people think that's a negative. I actually think it's a great thing that they feel like they need to put more money toward their own defense. At the end of the day, American power is going to be the gold standard. They're going to need us regardless. We saw what happened within the Iran war where we asked for their help. Sure, they could have said that we could have used the bases, but it looks like a lot of the ships and carriers that they had weren't working anyway. So that shows you that they need our support. I'm glad they're starting to invest more into their own defense.
No doubt about it. And President Trump, during term one, he had that 2% goal. He wanted every single country to pay 2%. And now that's been moved, thanks to President Trump, a new 5% of GDP commitment, which nearly every country, I believe all 32 except Spain, signed on to. And because of President Trump taking office in 2016 to now, you've seen a $258 billion increase in defense budgets and the amount being spent into NATO over that year period. That is President Trump. So really what the NATO allies should be saying is thank you, President Trump, for not only increasing spending, but also dealing with Iran, at least making an effort when these NATO allies sat back idly.
Keep in mind that we have $980 billion, and we're like, well, that's a lot. But in actual terms of our GDP, it's less than 5%. So that's why we got to get up to 1.5 trillion. You know, during Reagan's time, it was at 5%, and that was during peacetime. We were coming into the end of the Cold War. But I think we got to get to 1.5 trillion. I think right now Congress is reluctant to do that. I would love to see an audit. At the same time, because I get the sense we're wasting a lot of money. We have a huge problem with weapons production.
That's the real
we
problem.
Still have not addressed it. And I think there's a chance of two things happening. Number one, I think that there might be in a situation where even Russia realizes they need to end this conflict. And the president fully realizes the Russians are losing. They have not gotten a kilometer left. The average lifespan for a person drafted today, once put into the front lines in Russia, is 10 days. And for every 6 Russians lost, 1 Ukrainian dies. And they're beginning to blow up every refinery in that country. They just hit Siberia, which is over 1,500 miles away, with rockets that they engineered, not from us. So let Ukraine, hopefully they can maybe finish the job in this summit. And I would love to see our allies surprise us by saying what they're willing to do to escort ships through the strait.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News
I wouldn't be surprised that the military planners at the Pentagon and at the think tanks are thinking that there will be more escalation with Russia, potentially even with China, after the midterm election, and that we are preparing for a wider and longer duration kinetic world event. And this coincides with what I've been saying for almost 2 years. There's a curse coming. It's going to affect the whole world, and it's going to start on 9/11 of this year, and it's going to last for 2 years. I thought it was going to last for 1 year. But actually, looking deeper into the data, it's going to actually last for 2 years, this curse. And you can see it. It's probably going to have something to do with temperatures in the world, have something to do with disease, food supplies, war, economics. It's all going to hit together. It's all converging. All these emerging news items that we cover every day are converging to a serious point. And that point is this 9/11/2026 opening of a curse for the world. There's an inflection point. Like when you look at historical events, there's an inflection point that led to a certain era, either a war or technological gains, a decline of an empire, whatever. We're approaching this point of history. All right. Markets are open right now, and the S&P 500 is trading at 7,530. Again, I am giving you a prediction that year end it's going to be 7,800 to 8,000 for the S&P 500. We have to readjust because we're going into this curse realm. I would be careful, but we'll reassess once we get to year end. The VIX is just under 16. Oil is trading a little bit higher than yesterday. It's at 69.62. And that new trading range, because we're above that support level of 68.78, we probably have a new range at about 68.78 to about maybe 72.74. I wouldn't be surprised if we in the near term creep up to $72 a barrel because of what happened with the Strait of Hormuz and the ship attacks by Iran. Natural gas is trading at 3.232. That's a little high. You know, I think there's a trading range between 3.3 to 3.1. So I'm going to short natural gas. And I'm waiting for the time series to evolve during the intraday trading to do a tactical trade with the S&P 500. But I haven't seen a good entry point yet. So I'll tell you when I do. But please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support the work that I do. Now, if you follow my advice, you'll make some money on the market, but you'll also improve your health. How? By taking the supplements that I have on my store. These are supplements that I take every day to slow down the aging process. It's inexpensive in relative terms, and it will help you get that longevity and energy levels, reduce that inflammation, soak up those free radicals. You're targeting all the major pressure points of aging. I've been doing this for a very long time, since I was 16 years old. So if you just pay attention to me, I will give you an affordable way to slow down the aging process, and you'll get healthy, and you'll be able to reverse some of the problems that you have. Now, it starts with the gut. So getting a good probiotic is really important. Now, I have two types of probiotics. You can get either the veggie cap version or the powdered version. Now, I prefer to take the powdered version because I mix it with a lot of the different powders that I have on my store, like the collagen and the lignans and the gladiator barley, the boomer boost. So it's just easier for me. But take either one. Take it every day. When you do this, you're going to improve your gut biome. You're going to improve your mucosal layer. You're going to be able to improve the crypt of your lining of your gut. And when you do that, you're going to have a healthier gut, healthier cells, reduce leaky gut syndrome, improve your immune system, reduce inflammation. Your metabolism will improve. The communication between your gut and your liver and your gut and your brain will improve. Your sleep will get better. Your brain function will improve. You need a proper gut biome to do all the metabolism and breaking down of compounds that allow you to actually think better and allow you to get proper sleep. If you have a poor gut biome and you're having problems sleeping, well, maybe you need to change lifestyle, change the way you're doing things. Drink filtered water, stay away from processed foods, and get a good probiotic. Now, you either can get the powder version or the VeggieCat version. Take it every day. And you're going to see that your metabolism is improving. You're reducing the chances of allergies. A lot of food allergies is due to a poor gut. Your brain function will improve. And skin health also improves. You can take a look at someone, and if they have a problem with their skin, you can trace it back. If you analyze the patient, you can trace it back to a poor gut. So please pay attention to me. Get the probiotics, improve your skin, improve your brain function, improve your immune system, bring down inflammation, improve your metabolism. Good health starts at the gut. But it's not just taking a probiotic. It's also drinking filtered water and staying away from the processed foods, because what's disturbing the gut biome are the processed foods. So please go to my store and get the probiotics. Make sure you use discount 5. I want you to save some money. You can use that discount as many times as you want. I want to get the supplements in your hands, use them so you get healthy. And when you do this regularly, if you follow my advice and you stack these supplements the way I tell you to, you will see major improvements in your life. All right, let's listen to Jack Keane, General Keane.
Watching videos in a water bottle again? The angle's always wrong. It keeps sliding, and one hand is always busy holding it instead of doing what you actually.
President Trump is going to be landing momentarily in Turkey for the NATO summit, this 2-day summit, bringing his America First agenda to the world stage. This is video of him last night boarding Air Force One at Joint Base Andrews. He is currently in the air and is going to be landing in Turkey soon. He is set to meet with Turkey's President Erdogan before attending a NATO leaders' dinner. That dinner is going to be tonight. Expected at the top of this agenda, ending the war between Ukraine and Russia.
I think we're getting much closer than people realize, and President Putin wants it to end. I will tell you that very strongly.
I don't believe so. I think this is going to continue, and if it's going to end, why is NATO needing to spend more for defense if the security threat is neutralized or negotiated? No. There's something bigger coming. Something bigger is coming. It's going to be after the midterms.
And President Zelensky actually wants it to end now. And we're going to be going to NATO, and we're going to be talking about it. And I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get it ended. It's been a terrible situation.
NATO General Mark Rutte reportedly planning to unveil a multi-billion-dollar arms package after pressure from the commander-in-chief. Writing in a new op-ed, quote, "The alliance that has leaned too heavily on U.S. muscle is building its own and buying American, too." The president also reportedly is planning billions in arms sales despite pressuring allies to step up. Joining me now, Fox News senior.
For the home gamers, I just put a position in to short natural gas. Right now, natural gas is at 3.248. The equity market for the S&P 500 is at 7,524.
Strategic analyst at Institute for the Study of War Chairman, General Jack Keane. General, good morning to you, and your insight is so valuable here. Jerry Baker writes in the Wall Street Journal that his concern, and it's changed in the last month, is that Vladimir Putin could be getting ready to possibly attack maybe a Baltic state, possibly Poland. And he said, a month ago, I would have scoffed. Multiple conversations with European leaders and officials tell me otherwise. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, well, certainly we've known for some time that seizing Ukraine clearly was his objective, and let's make certain everybody understands now the idea that Putin is ever going to take Ukraine is really out of the question. There was a number of people certainly who thought that Putin, larger country, outmanning, outgunning Ukrainians would eventually win, and that narrative certainly was posited with the American negotiating team as well. But I think we're much more clear-eyed about what has taken place here. That's just not possible. The tide has turned in favor of Ukraine. But given the fact that Putin knows he's got serious troubles inside of Ukraine, there's people who think that he may seize this opportunity to masquerade those problems by taking on Europe and NATO at a time when they believe they're vulnerable and weak. And obviously much of this meeting is about building up European NATO defense capabilities with their defense industry, and also establishing a realistic deterrence against Russia's ambitions and expansions. A major strategic victory for Putin would be to break the transatlantic alliance. If he moved on those countries, he would only do so, Cheryl, because he believes that they will not physically oppose him, that it would actually sever the transatlantic alliance, and that the United States would not participate as well. If he tried to take those countries, realizing that the United States and NATO would oppose him, then that would risk, obviously, his being able to survive in that as a leader of Russia. So strategically, I think that's what Gerald Baker is thinking about. He can speak for himself, certainly. I don't think that's likely to happen. I think Putin clearly does have his hands full dealing with the situation in Ukraine and dealing with the challenge he's having internally in Russia. Ukraine is now taking down, in terms of oil storage capability, 34% of what Russia has. And we've just seen them strike an oil storage facility in Siberia, which is some 1,500 miles away. Quite dramatic what has taken place here. Gas shortages are prevalent in most of the major areas of Russia as a result of Ukraine's successful aggression here. And Russia, in desperation, is trying to kill as many Ukrainian citizens as they can. They're targeting non-combatants to put pressure on Zelensky and also to put pressure on the United States. But there's only been one person who hasn't been wanting to go to a ceasefire here in the last 3 years, and that has been Putin. And I doubt seriously that he's willing to do it now either.
Interesting that you to say that. And certainly we know that the president spoke with Vladimir Putin on Saturday, but he is scheduled to meet with President Zelensky during the NATO two-day summit. So we're going to be following that news. There's also some new overnight news I want to get your reaction to. Tehran's military reportedly has fired at least two missiles at commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran says a Qatari oil tanker ignored repeated warnings. Now, the British military says one of its tankers traveling off the coast of Oman did catch fire after being struck by a projectile. Both vessels had damage, but no casualties. Now, President Trump gave this warning to Iran yesterday. Watch this.
We're going to win one way or the other. We're either going to make a deal or we're going to finish the job, okay? And it won't be tough to finish the job. I'd rather make a deal.
All right. So I just put a position in the S&P 500. So long, it's a tactical move. I'm just dipping my toe into it to see where the action may be. If it goes down, I will continue to buy. And I'm shorting natural gas. And natural gas is at 3.244. I'm longing S&P 500 at 7,524.
Because I don't want to affect 91 million people. I would say a small part of an afternoon, every plane will be gone. And they know that.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly did speak with President Trump on Friday, urging him to rein in Turkey's Erdogan over his anti-Israel rhetoric. Hold off on the planned $700 million jet engine deal. General Keane, I want to get your thoughts on all of this because you know, the reporting is, and this is the expectation from officials at the White House, that there's going to be a major defense deal announced and that the president's going to, once again, allow Turkey to start buying F-35s?
Well, let me deal with the first thing, the Straits of Hormuz. In the memorandum of understanding, there was really only one deal there, and that was Iran would open their Straits of Hormuz, and the United States would remove U.S. blockade. And that was the deal. Everything else was kicked down the road in terms of negotiations with a 60-day deadline. And has Iran complied with that? Absolutely not. We've seen multiple times now that they are still maintaining some control of the Straits of Hormuz in terms of where ships.
Exactly. The maritime law is not being protected. Trump is not protecting the maritime law of freedom of navigation. He failed with this. And the Iranians, they keep on delaying, they keep on negotiating and with terms and verbiage, and they're only going to reconstitute. They always do this. And Trump, because he's hubris, thinks that he'll be able to get a deal and that everything's going to be copacetic. And that's not the case. It's only going to get worse in the long run. Might as well get the job done. But of course, Trump won't. And, when something flares up in the Middle East, we're going to start seeing oil prices going up. And the freedom of navigation for every strait in the world is at risk now. Every single strait. Because Trump decided not to protect maritime law.
When they will go and ensure and making certain that they're paying for doing that, using insurance, tolls, fees, or whatever. That means Iran's still exercising a level of control over the straits. President Trump has already reacted to that once with military strikes. I suspect he's not going to permit this to happen. This is the first thing that we agreed to, and Iran is reneging on that agreement. We have this problem here with the negotiators saying one thing, but the people in charge doing something quite different. And that is what we're seeing happening here. In terms of Turkey, so our audience understands, the United States and Turkey are truly at odds when it comes to the Middle East. The fact of the matter is that Erdogan is a Muslim Brotherhood. He's pro-Hamas, and he's anti-Israel, calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. He doesn't agree with the Abraham Accords, which is a seminal achievement of the Trump administration. He's exercising domination and control over Syria, and he's informally stitching together an alliance consisting of Turkey, Pakistan, Syria, Egypt, and Azerbaijan and Saudi Arabia. And what is that all about? That is separate from the United States' influence in the region, and he's doing that because of the United States' domination and influence in the region. He wants us to have less of that. At the same time, he has a very cordial and friendly relationship with our president, and he is a member of NATO. To me, it makes no sense to give him F-35s, given the security issues and given his strategic objectives, which are so much at odds with the United States.
Well, General Jack Keane, your perspective is that's.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the heirloom barley. Heirloom barley will help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals. That's really important for your immune system and endocrine system. But by bringing down inflammation and soaking up free radicals, you're also helping with brain function, recovering after a workout, and helping with joint health. Individuals that have arthritis, part of that arthritic pain and problems with your joints is due to inflammation. So you need to bring that inflammation down. You can do that with the heirloom barley. But take this every day. It's a great way to detoxify your body. It's a month's supply. Or you can use zeolite. Take zeolite every day, 3 small drops underneath your tongue, and it'll help to detoxify your body. It'll get rid of heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals, and allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. So take 3 small drops, they'll bind to the toxins, and you'll be able to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. This zeolite you can take every day. Some zeolite you can't. This you can. And by doing that, you are helping your immune system and your endocrine system. Super important. In addition, make sure that you drink filtered water, stay away from processed foods. That intake causes toxins to come into your body. Another thing that you should do is clean your house. Look at the cleaning solutions, the paints, the pesticides. If you need them in your garage or in your basement, make sure you put them in double layer containers. And that way you're preventing exposure, the daily exposure. These things degas. You may not even be able to smell them, but they degas, and that constant exposure can cause problems with your immune system and endocrine system when you're building up toxins. So it's really important to detoxify your body regularly. Zeolite is a great way to do it. Another way is to use the heirloom barley as a daily detox. So please go to my store, use discount 5, you get $5 off, and put it as a routine for you to detoxify your body. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, this is the real threat GOP rep says America must focus on here next.
President Trump arriving in Turkey this morning for the NATO summit, the two-day summit underway in Ankara, where much of the focus is expected to be European defense spending targets, contracts that could benefit the United States defense sector. NATO remains under pressure from Russia's ongoing aggression in Ukraine. I want to bring in Iowa Congressman Zach Nunn. He is also a veteran of the United States Air Force. Congressman, thank you for your service. You have a bill that you say would force a choice for foreign banks that are funding this war or funding Putin. Do business with the West or do business with Russia? Make a choice here. Tell us about the Peace Act. What do you hope comes out of it?
Well, Cheryl, this is the perfect buttress to what President Trump has already done with our NATO allies to hold Russia accountable. And look, the Peace Act is based on peace through strength, holding Russia accountable, cutting off their very source of oil and energy, opposing their ghost fleet. And I'm happy to say it's already passed through the House committee here with overwhelming support. The key thing we do not want to see is that Russia continues to be able to profit off of illicit oil sales or do banking here in the West where it makes interest rates returns largely through European banks and holdings here in the United States. The president has already shown that if we do this effectively, we can stop Russia's ability to fund 1 million men coming out of Russia who have been casualties of this war so far, equal numbers here in Ukraine, and make sure that our allies are actually investing in the United States, investing in our defense production here locally, as opposed to continuing to fund energy sources going into Russia that ultimately perpetuate a war of attrition for both the Russians, the Ukrainians, and certainly the entire world. I'm really happy to see this go forward. It's the only bill in Congress right now that's actually made it this far down the road as a combat veteran. I want to see this conflict stopped, and I want to see America come out on top and Russia stopped.
What banks are you targeting? Do you have specific names that you can share?
Yeah, so I think the two biggest energy producers here are going to be the ones based in Russia, and there are financial institutions across both Europe and the United States who continue to hold funds for the Russians. These are, these are our well-known banks here who have a responsibility to hold these assets and not allow the interest to go back to Russia. Overwhelmingly, though, I think it's important, Cheryl, to know these are European banks who need to be held to the same accountability standards that we've done here in the United States. We've held 6 different House Financial Services Committee hearings on this.
Because of the issues that we're seeing with the Strait of Hormuz, oil is starting to creep up above $70 a barrel now. And I was saying this yesterday, that if it broke the resistance level of 68, 78, that there's going to be a new trading range. I would not be surprised if this goes up to $72 a barrel. But right now it's at $70.04 for WTI futures. The natural gas is creeping up a little bit. It's at 3.260. and equities are at 7,512. If it breaks the 7,500 mark, I think that there will be algorithmic traders buying some shares into the S&P 500.
The committee, Frank Schill, has his repo act included in that. It would take this money back, nearly $60 billion that could be used directly to help fund Ukraine's defense, but more importantly, purchase U.S.-made manufacturing.
But did you name,
US.
have you named the banks in the bill? That was my question. Did you name the specific banks?
No, this is, yeah, Cheryl, this is going to go for every single bank that's out there. The top 10 are the ones that we are most impacted by this.
Okay, so it's broad. Okay, so let me ask you something else here about this summit, because, you know, there's an expectation now, and there's reporting in the New York Times about this, that the president is expected in Turkey to say that he's ready to once again sell F-35s to Turkey. He's the one that stopped that earlier because he didn't want the Russians to get a hold of that technology, but that could hit a block in Congress. What do you make of that reporting? Because he would have to possibly get approval from Congress. There might be some legal issues there. Would you support it?
The F-35 is an amazing aircraft. Okay. Yeah, I do, and here's why. Turkey has been an ally with the United States for a long time. I flown operations out of Turkey. We've flown combat sorties against both Iraq and Afghanistan in tandem with our security operations for the U.S. interests in Syria with our Turkish allies in the region. We have air bases in Turkey right now. We fly F-35s through Turkey. The best way to deter Russia and candidly Iran is to be able to have a strong sales export to Turkey. I think the president's absolutely right on this. Congress needs to sign off on it. But here's the real threat, Cheryl. As we look at what's going on in Europe and with NATO requiring them to spend at least 5% of their GDP on defense, we've got to start looking at resupplying our supply chain here in the United States to deter China. The sale of F-35s to Turkey continues to build a supply chain of success, one that is in high demand, both in our allies in Singapore, Japan, Taiwan, other countries throughout the Indo-Pacific. We need to make sure that we've got enough aircraft going to them. That's the threat that I see as being top tier. Turkey's certainly an ally on this, and we've worked with them on the F-16s. But the F-35 is a cutting-edge fifth-gen fighter jet. Let's make sure our allies have access to both the equipment, the pipeline for pilot training, and then that we've got a supply chain here that's durable by making sure we have enough orders done. Turkey can be a provider for that.
Your military experience certainly lends you to the expertise that you obviously have on this issue. Thank you for answering that, Congressman. I do want to get to some other business in front of you, because there's only 8 legislative days left for the House to pass key pieces of the president's agenda before the August recess. Now, the president has been posting on Truth Social this morning from Air Force One. One of the things he wrote is this: when Congress returns, we must pass Reconciliation 3.0 with $350 billion for defense, plus the Save America Act. I am calling on House and Senate leadership to make this their #1 priority. The House has passed the Save America Act 3 times. As you know, at this point, the Senate remains stalled on passing it. Kansas Senator Roger Marshall actually joined me on Sunday. Here is his suggestion for how to get the bill passed in pieces. Watch this.
It is through this reconciliation process.
Imagine never brushing your retainer again, just water and the touch of a button. Outdated cleaning methods have dominated our routines for far too long.
It is through this reconciliation process of 50 votes that we could probably fund states that want to check ID. Maybe we could take some of the federal election money that we give states that they're not checking for IDs. But again, I go back to this: 80–90% of Americans, including a supermajority of Democrat voters, want election integrity. They want voter ID. They want proof of citizenship. I'd be all for a reconciliation bill to pass. The president's supplemental that's going to include, by the way, year-round Ep49 and some extra funding for farmers who are bearing the brunt of fertilizer prices right now. So maybe we do need to do that through reconciliation. My suggestion is let's bring these one piece at a time. Let's get the Democrats on the record. Let's vote just specifically on voter ID. Then let's vote specifically on proof of citizenship at time of registration. Let's get these Democrats on the record and let the American people put pressure on them on each one of these votes individually.
Congressman, would that idea work, in your opinion?
Well, look, here's the great news. We've already done this in the House. And so if the Senate wants to take it piecemeal, great, good for them. All I ask my colleagues in the Senate to do, let's keep moving forward on this. As you noted, we voted for this 3 times in the House to make sure that we've got voter integrity. More importantly, my own state of Iowa, we've been doing this for years. You gotta have an ID to vote. It's a basic principle. And equally, you gotta be a qualified American to be able to vote. We've had huge success in our state showing that this can work, and we have integrity on our election day that people know and trust. This is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This is a good voter integrity bill. And here's the reality. The president has already agreed to this. We've been able to move it forward. And I think you're absolutely right. We have a few calendar days left where we actually get to make an impact on this. We've moved forward things like year-round Ep49, as the senator noted. We've been able to get this over to the Senate. I'm asking my colleagues on the Senate side, come to the table. Let's get something done. We have the month of July left, and we have the month of September left, where we can still move good, legislation forward. Top of the agenda for me, National Defense Authorization Act has to move forward. We've got to be able to make sure that we've got our frontline intelligence officers covered with a new form of FISA that reforms and protects Fourth Amendment rights. And we've got to make sure that we are funding our budget through the end of the year. Here's the reality right now. The House has been able to move forward on a number of our appropriations bills. I don't want us to end in a situation in October where we have a government shutdown that the Democrats will force upon us because we haven't been able to move forward. A lot of good things happening. Let's make sure the Senate does the same.
Yeah, Congressman Zachman, you're right. There is a lot happening, and we appreciate your time this morning.
Showing proof of citizenship when you're voting, I don't see as a hindrance to the actual voter. It's improving the election integrity. So I don't understand why this is an issue. Please, unless you have groups out there that want dead people to vote. And why do dead people always vote Democrat? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3. Omega-3 will bring down inflammation. It's going to improve your lipid profile, help to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels, and reduce the stickiness of your red blood cells to prevent overclotting. Omega-3 is super important to take for cardiovascular health. And by taking omega-3, you're reducing plaque formation. And when you have better blood flow, you're also improving your hippocampus, you're improving your memory, you're improving brain function because you're getting better blood flow. So please go to my store and get the omega-3. Good night formula you should take every night. It has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower to allow you to get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. When you get into these cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep, you're consolidating memory, detoxifying your central nervous system, and you're going to be well rested. When you do this regularly, you're slowing down the aging process and improving brain function. If you want to reduce the probability of getting dementia, proper sleep is a great way to do it. But also bringing down inflammation is important too. Clarity factor, a great way to improve your neurons and the neural connections. This will get rid of brain fog. You take it every day, drink it with filtered water, and over time what will happen is that your neurons will link together. You'll be thinking better, you'll have better memory, you'll have better concentration. And over time, you're improving your brain function. Please go to my store and get the Clarity Factor. So a great stack here, the Clarity Factor in the morning, the omega-3 in the morning, and then the Good Night formula at night. You're helping with brain function, you're helping with your cardiovascular health. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5 to get $5 off any order. The link is in the description of this video. So go to my website and get the great supplements that I offer. Make sure you use discount 5. I want you to save some money, all right? And I want you to get healthy, because how are we going to fight the socialists if we have a bunch of conservatives that are unhealthy? All right, let's listen into Al Jazeera about this NATO summit.
Time-tested partner all the way back to the Iraq war, to Afghanistan, and now in Iran. And that is something that you hear them talk about as well, that on the Iran file, they're going to have discussions as well. So it appears that this is a relationship which is strong, which is evolving, and kind of bigger than the rest of the NATO relationship combined.
Osama bin Junaid, it's good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us live from Ankara. 6 NATO countries share a border with Russia, and Poland is one of them. Only 2 of the 4 land crossings between the 2 countries are open and with a heightened security since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. Milena Veselinovic reports from near Bezlety, close to the Polish-Russian border.
We're right by the border fence between Poland and the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad. Over there you've got Polish border guards conducting their patrols, and beyond the barbed wire is Russia. But we're not allowed to swing the camera and fully show the Russian territory. Such are the sensitivities between the 2 nations at the moment, because here we truly are on NATO's eastern frontier, and the threat of Russia does feel real. And that's because Poland has been on the receiving end of cyber attacks, of disinformation, but also incursions into their airspace, sabotage on their railways, all designed to test, according to Polish authorities, NATO's response, and all orchestrated, again, Poland says, by Moscow, although Russia strongly denies that. And in the last few days, reports emerged citing US intelligence that there could be an actual limited but armed attack on Polish soil. Addressing this, the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that Poland is preparing for various scenarios. Milena Veselinovic, Al Jazeera, on the border between Poland and the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad.
2 explosions have been reported in Damascus during the French president's visit.
Now, pay attention to what I was saying with the curse. It's already been telegraphed in the news that there may be problems with Poland and Russia. There's an emergence that's taking place as we approach 9/11, 2026. Now, for the ones that don't understand what I'm talking about, Rosh Hashanah coincides with the Sabbath on 9/11 this year. And you can't blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah when it coincides with the Sabbath. You can't silence Satan or Satan. If you can't silence Satan or Satan, guess what? It's increasing the probability of your sins or the sins of the world not to be absolved. Historically, when Rosh Hashanah coincides with the Sabbath, especially when it happens 2 consecutive years, bad things happen. Well, it's going to start this year and next year. Rosh Hashanah coincides with the Sabbath. Something bad's coming. Okay, let's see here. Let's listen into NVIDIA. I think they're talking about AI chip stocks here.
Much of what you're doing as you journey through life is to continually expand your personality. Is there something small that you can do on a daily basis?
They buy big on dips. I want to bring in now Steve Sosnick, Interactive Brokers Chief Strategist. And Steve, listen, I know it's great for your business, but you also are concerned about retail investors who may not understand some of the warning signs that they should be looking at with respect to going all in on every dip.
Well, thank you, Charles, for bringing it up that way, because my feeling is, you can't fight a trend. You can't fight the tape. That's an old expression that holds a lot of water. But what you always should be doing is thinking about, like, when might the trend be changing? How am I going to be sensitive to it? And so buying the dip has worked essentially almost foolproof manner for the better part of, call it 10 plus years, probably since the global financial crisis.
I think you go back to March of 2009. We've had some, but essentially if you bought the dip since then, you've done extraordinarily well.
Tended to do very well, but the problem is that can lead to complacency. Not every dip is a buying opportunity every single time. And I think just you could do it, but you better be aware of times where the situation might be changing, because it's very easy to go from constructive dip buying to being a bag holder?
Is there one key thing? I know there's several things probably in your dashboard that you're paying attention to, but is there one thing you can impart to our viewers? You know, increased volatility, you know, any sort of signal that will say, okay, let me just pay closer attention.
There's another
The S&P
thing
500. The S&P 500 is trading at 7,502. It's probably going to break and start trading in the 7,400 range, maybe 7,450. But the thing is this is selling off because of the news about, I think it's twofold. You have chips, individual companies starting to discuss that they want to make their own chips and deviate from NVIDIA. So that whole circular financing may be unraveling or getting stressed. Maybe not unraveling, but getting stressed. So you have that circular financing. NVIDIA is getting hit. NVIDIA is also getting hit because of Samsung doing well. And you have a lot of the hyperscalers and tech companies starting to issue corporate debt to help finance this build out. Well, wait a minute. I mean, yes, they are cash cows. Amazon's a cash cow. But the canary in the coal mine is you have, right now, Oracle is a little stressed because of their build out in AI and being a hyperscaler. They had to issue debt. The true revenue stream hasn't really come to fruition for the hyperscalers. So individuals that were buying in to that whole Mag 7 the Mag 7 AI trend they are like, well, wait a minute here. Something is starting to fade. Something's starting to break, especially with that circular financing. You have these companies coming out with more debt. Now, things are relatively good. Now, pay attention to what I was saying about the curse that's coming after 9/11/2026. It's going to last for 2 years. They're issuing debt. They have decent cash flows. They'll be able to pay this debt. But what happens when the recession hits? Now, let's go back to 1873. 1873, when they were building out the railroads. It was okay. And then all of a sudden, they started issuing more debt. And it wasn't really regulated because of the trusts with these banks. And eventually, the banks failed. Now, we have regulations, but there's a similar theme here. Speeding up the build out of AI, and all of a sudden you have to issue debt to keep on fueling the build out. And then what happens when there's some bank stress, a recession, investors not willing to soak up the liquidity? Think about it. The United States Treasury has to issue a lot of bonds. And they're competing now with a bunch of tech companies that are issuing corporate debt. Are there enough investors out there willing to buy debt, sovereign debt or corporate debt? It's a big question. And yields may start to balloon out. So this is something to pay attention to. But right now, the S&P 500 just broke, as I was talking, the 7,500 barrier. So right now it's trading at 7,491, and VIX started to spike up. It's above 16 at the moment. Oil is trading at $70.12, and natural gas is trading at 3.275. But don't bet against the United States, and you just nibble. You don't, when you buy the dip, you don't put everything in. You nibble at it. Nibble, nibble, nibble. And then as it's moving up and the trend is starting to go in your favor, then you start adding in more positions and you're reducing the risk. When someone has cash on hand and they just buy the dip, that's the wrong way, because you might be okay, but what happens if it keeps on falling? That's why you just nibble at it. And if it keeps on falling, you nibble some more. If it keeps on falling, you nibble some more. And then when the trend starts to change, then you start adding more positions and you'll have less risk exposure. That's how you manage risk if you are longing a particular asset.
Typically true is that volatility tends to increase at turning points. And so when you start to see a trend peter out and volatility increase, that's not necessarily a red flag, but it's often a yellow flag, particularly when it's accompanied by some breakdowns in the underlying trends, especially when you have a momentum-driven market where people are investing on those trends.
Right, good stuff there. I want to talk about the chips. I know the buying right now, retail, they love their chips. Micron, number 1, NVIDIA, number 3, and DRAM, the ETF, number 6.
And we could go down among our top 25. I think it's like 12 of the top 25 are chip related, including some double levered single stock ETFs on Micron and SanDisk. They love the chips, and again, this is where it becomes. I'm not saying it's wrong. It certainly worked really well.
Right.
They have shown a little bit of a, the parabolic trend is broken. Parabolic trends, although we moved a little sideways, but when parabolic trends end, that, they end unpredictably and often in a very nasty manner. So again, this is why I'm not going to say sell all your tech stocks right now. That would be insanity. But it would also behoove people to start to notice, maybe take a profit here and there. Maybe you want to de-risk a little. Maybe you want to realize that, if you had a neutral investment portfolio before, you're going to be very heavily weighted in tech now because it's so outperformed.
I personally have always been sort of concerned. I've never recommended any 3 times. I don't think even maybe double, but it's rare. But we start to see 3 times an ETF, 3 times an individual stock, and you have to be so extraordinarily nimble. It reminds me like of people who don't understand options. You can make money 5 times in a row, lose it all when the 6th go round. Well,
I totally believe in the 2x and 3x ETFs, but you have to use risk management, and this is the reason why not everybody can do it. They either don't have the personality, they don't have the psychology, or they just don't see the pattern recognition. But he's wrong about that. For the average person, he's right.
Here is there are embedded options, and that's where the real problem comes in.
He's right for the average person that 2x and 3x don't touch. But for the one that does have good risk management, has a decent amount of cash on hand, and has good pattern recognition, 2x and 3x is how you become very wealthy.
People don't read prospectuses, but on the front page of prospectus, in big bold letters, these all have a similarity. They all say that these match the daily returns of the underlying product. They don't match the ongoing returns, and you tend to underperform. And the higher the volatility, because you're buying options that decay faster, you underperform even more. So these are trading vehicles, not investment vehicles.
Yes, I agree with that.
Speaking of risk,
absolutely,
I want to segue into prediction markets because they are just exploding. Yes. I saw a stat today on betting on Kelce and poly markets on the World Cup. Your firm doesn't do sports, but you do have a predictions market.
We do. IBK, our forecast trader. We've limited ourselves.
Prediction markets.
The entertainment space.
Prediction markets is just betting. Don't do it. It's a waste of your time. All right. Let's see. What else is going on in the world here? Okay. We have to always do an episode of Mondani and how he's screwing up New York. So let's do it now. But before we do, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Manukani lozenges. It's made from structural nano silver. Or the Orange Splash, which is fortified with vitamin C. Both have structural nano silver. With structural nano silver, you're going to be neutralizing. This is really important during the cold season and the allergy season. And it's going to protect your oral pharynx, so you mitigate any further problem. It's perfect for cleaning the house. Take it prophylactically while you're dusting or cleaning the garage or the basement or even working in the yard. Have some at home, have some at work, get a few bags for your household. They're very effective and they're inexpensive. So please go to my store, get the structural nano silver lozenges.
Stop calling me. You sound like
calling you to let you know that we're gonna pay off every loan you have. Like, it's literally
easy.
All right, New York's plan for city-run grocery stores facing a new round of pushback as bodega owners report aides to Mayor Zohar Mamdani started asking about their top-selling items and which products make them the most money. Now, some store owners are wondering if City Hall's figuring out how to compete with them. Don Katzimatidis is with us now, the Red Apple Group CEO and president of Prestige and D'Agostino's Foods. Welcome to you. Good to see you, John. I know you care so deeply about the city and the people of the city and the employees of the city and the employers. Many of these bodegas, family-owned, work 7 days a week. They know the names of the customers who walk in the door. In walks the aides of Mayor Mamdani, I combined the two. In walk the aides and say, hey, by the way, why don't you share some of your proprietary information that you've learned running your business over the years? Which products make you the most money? Where's the most profit margin? These bodega owners are saying, take a hike. What's going on here?
The answers are very, very easy. And since a lot of the people that the mayor has on his staff do not know the retail business, do not know, I will suggest it. The fact is, I've offered my services to it. They're not going to open some of the stores at 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. You know, if you gave me the assignment, I'll open them all up in 6 months. Let's go away from that. You know, but it's a 6 month deal. It's not a 2 year, 3 year deal. And the fact is, if they want to lower the prices of eggs, tell everybody, okay, show us your purchases. You bought 10,000 cases of or 10,000 dozen of eggs. We'll give you a credit against your real estate taxes of $1 a dozen. With the promise you will lower the prices. I mean, it's very simple. Let all the bodegas, let all the supermarkets participate. Lower the price of eggs. Give a credit against their real estate taxes. The other problem we have in New York City, half the retail stores in New York City are closing. Because not only are we not getting credit against our real estate taxes, congestion pricing. Anytime you want a manufacturer to come to New York City, you know what happens? You know, this is New York City.
They find out
congestion pricing.
Yeah.
I'm going to charge you 15-20% more for your product. So we're hurting the consumer. We're hurting the business people. You can't hurt the consumer and the business people. That doesn't make people happy. Let's give a credit to, you want to sell eggs? Give a credit $1 a dozen with the condition that you lower your gross margins $1 a dozen. And give a credit to milk. Give a credit to
Does the
whatever
taxpayer
product you want to sell.
benefit in any way from this? I mean, they're on the hook for paying for these stores, right? All right, what are we talking upwards of $30 million? And then if they fail, you know, we're also on the hook, the taxpayer. But if they fail, there's the potential that they ran all the bodega owners out of business, and now there's nowhere to shop.
There's nowhere to shop. You're absolutely right, and they can't replace them. You put the people out of the bodega owners out of business, then there's no place to shop, and they can't replace the places that they operate. But so there's a common sense decision. There's a common sense solution. All they have to do is get some people around them that know the business.
Oh, I almost forgot to call for some of this stuff because this is just too good to be true. So the deputy mayor from the Economic Justice Office for the city is defending this, saying we met with bodega owners so that they can help us plan and ensure that we take into account their challenges and their role as part of the food ecosystem. Okay, I'll spare you the rest. Then there's this. Here's the grocery stores, the bodega
way
owners.
Socialism works and how they get their fangs into your business is that they always want to do a survey or do an assessment. And then once they figure out how your business works, then they figure out a way to tax it or hurt it or take it away from you. Socialism will never work. And this is the reason why I keep on saying, you got to get healthy, you got to get smart, because we're going through tough times and it's a battle between conservative culture and ultra-liberal culture. It's a battle between the Enlightenment versus postmodernism. It is a battle between capitalism and communism.
The New York Post about this is a roundtable discussion. They wanted us to share proprietary information with them, but they don't answer our questions. It seems like a clumsy, one-sided fishing expedition. I would be put off if my local government asked me questions about my profits and margins. It's none of their business. Here. I'll finish off with this. This is key food owner Ruben Luna on his concerns over these government-run stores. Listen.
We're going to be suffering. We're going to disappear. We're going to lay off a lot of people. Where those people are going to get jobs? So they're going to affect not only the supermarket, but those little vendors in the streets. There's already too many stores in the neighborhoods. And how can you compete against the government or the mayor? There's no way we can do it. So we're going to be in trouble.
Puts them in a tough position. Last thought, John.
Last thought, why reduce the prices of eggs or bread or milk in 5 locations in the city? Reduce them in all locations by giving an equal amount of credit for reducing the prices.
Have you pitched this idea to the mayor?
I've offered my services and I still offer my
It seems like
it's simple.
Common sense, John.
It's common sense.
Imagine that.
Thank you so much.
Always good to have you. Thank you very much. Jillian? All right. Be sure to like.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Boomer Boost. This has 68 nutrients. This has all the vitamins and minerals and supplements that you need to slow down the aging process, improve your endocrine system, immune system, help with your cardiovascular system, help with brain function, help to control your A1C levels, get a steady burn of energy. There's no spiking. Your musculature will improve. Boomer Boost is a great supplement. And like I said, this is your multivitamin, but you get a lot more than just in a normal multivitamin. So I've been tweaking the protocol to lower costs for you guys. So please get the Boomer Boost and stack it. Stack it with the C60, the Max 35, the lignans, the turmeric, the ashwagandha root, and the probiotics. That's a very powerful stack that's synergistic, that's going to help to slow down the aging process. Now, you can mix and match a lot of different ways. Another great stack is the Boomer Boost with the heirloom barley or the gladiator barley, or the Boomer Boost with the resveratrol. But it's really important that you get the Boomer Boost. It's a cornerstone of helping to slow down that aging process and having all your different organ systems working properly. So just go to my store and take a look at the label. It's very comprehensive, extremely comprehensive. And you stack it with some of the other supplements I have, and you really are supercharging this anti-aging protocol. So you have more longevity and you're improving your body. But it's not just taking a supplement. It's about proper diet, proper exercise, drink filtered water, some spirituality or mindfulness, learning new things, talking to people, getting your body into parasympathetic mode. These are all very important to help to slow down the aging process and just have a better life. So it's about proper supplementation and proper lifestyle changes. So please go to my store and get the Boomer Boost. Now let's talk about that powerful stack. Ashwagandha root helps to control the cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels. Lignans helps to boost up your immune system and endocrine system, soaks up free radicals and brings down inflammation. Turmeric soaks up free radicals and brings down inflammation. Now, when you're bringing down inflammation, you're helping your cardiovascular system, your joints, and also brain function. But when you stack this together, it's a very powerful stack that's synergistic. You can take them separately, and they do wonders, but the magic is stacking it. So what's going to happen is your immune system and your endocrine system is going to get better. Brain function is going to improve. Cardiovascular health will improve. You're reducing plaque formation. You're going to be able to control your blood glucose levels. You're going to recover faster after a workout. And with less inflammation and soaking up those free radicals, you're not aging as fast. It's a very simple concept. Boost up energy levels, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals. It's a very simple concept. So take this supplement stack here, the ashwagandha root, lignans, and the turmeric. Now you can take them individually or just take the stack, but I highly highly recommend to stack it with the Boomer Boost. Because what are you doing? You get all the minerals and vitamins and other supplements in the Boomer Boost, and you're adding to it, you're stacking it to help slow down the aging process. See, there is this very fundamental concept that a lot of people don't understand. Why they don't understand, I don't know. FDA recommended daily allowance of certain minerals and vitamins will get you healthy, or it can get you to a point where you get closer to homeostasis, but it's not to slow down anti-aging. It's not to slow down the aging process. You have to boost up at higher levels certain types of minerals, certain types of vitamins, certain types of supplements. Not every higher dose of a certain vitamin is great for you. Only certain types. But if you pay attention to me, I'm giving you the recipe. All right. So if you just focus on balanced diet, eating greens and having some protein, and have a balanced carbohydrate diet, that will help you to get healthy, but that won't help to slow down the aging process. Taking the FDA amount of a particular vitamin or vitamins may help you to be healthy, not to be deficient in certain minerals or vitamins, but it's not going to slow down the aging process. See the key here? It's about higher doses of certain things working together to boost up the immune system and the endocrine system, and you're somewhat reprogramming, but you're helping to reduce the methylation of your genes. When you age, you're methylating genes, and as you get closer to an older age, you're methylating faster. This is the reason why that at a certain point you look at someone, they're aging quicker. You notice that? Well, they're methylating more. They have more free radicals. They have less energy. They have more inflammation. Well, bring down that inflammation by taking higher doses of certain types of supplements. Soak up those free radicals that are very potent and improve that mitochondria so you have better cellular metabolism and higher ATP levels. And when you do this, you're slowing down that methylation process. Just following the FDA recommended amount for a particular supplement isn't going to do that for you. It's not designed to be anti-aging. What I have developed over time, and what I'm telling you to take, is piercing through the major vectors of aging, and you are now building your body slowly to a point where you're slowing down that aging process. It works. I've been doing this for a very long time, since I was 16 years old. Now, over time, the supplements have improved. My understanding of the human body has improved. The idea of stacking, the research that comes out on sports medicine and geriatric medicine and aging medicine has improved over the last 10 years. A lot of people don't realize you can learn a lot from sports medicine just to slow down the aging process. You don't have to apply it to be in the Tour de France. You don't have to apply it to be a professional soccer player or a triathlete. You can use principles to actually slow down the aging process from sports medicine. So all you gotta do is just listen to me. So get the turmeric, get the ashwagandha, get the lignans, get the Boomer Boost. It'll slow down the aging process, boost up that immune system, and help with your endocrine system. But by keeping that inflammation down, controlling those blood glucose levels, getting better blood flow, building musculature is neuroprotective too. So you're improving your brain function. All right. I have a hard time believing that just following the FDA recommended numbers, it's going to improve brain function. I doubt it. All righty. Let's take a look at let's listen to Times News. No, that was 3 days ago. That was 3 days ago. I don't want 3 days ago news. The S&P 500 is trading at 7,489 at the moment. Fetterman calls on Bernie Sanders to apologize for backing Planter.
The IRS is not going to tell you this, and most CPAs actually won't tell you this either. Once your income reaches over $400,000 a year, it is likely that you're going to be overpaying taxes. Here's actually what's happening. Most tax professionals file tax.
In the meantime, if you want to keep getting ripped off by foreign organizations, from the UN to the WTO to FIFA, vote Democrat. And that's the angle. Here with reaction is Pennsylvania Senator and Democrat John Fetterman. Senator, should we expect to see impeachment articles filed over Trump's FIFA call?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, why are we talking about P. Hustle?
Yeah, Plattner. Yeah. Well, we're going to get to Plattner for a moment. I just wanted to touch on that. You know, the left and Democrats are all upset about the World Cup because President Trump said to the FIFA chief, you should review the call. Everyone knows that call was bad. But now that's sending people to say the World Cup is now forever corrupted, or at least in this tournament, it's corrupted because President Trump's called to FIFA. Your reaction to that?
I haven't been following that closely. I mean, my wife follows soccer very closely as my son. I mean, she's, all in on Brazil. I'm a Steeler guy here in Western Pennsylvania, but I haven't really followed that very closely. Honestly, I've been...
Got it. We'll get on to the story that I think you want to speak about, which is Graham Plattner. You were one of his fiercest critics. And of course, now Schumer and other Democrats are saying he needs to drop out before the July 13th deadline, which is coming up in just a few days, for him to be able to actually drop out of the race. Your reaction tonight?
Well, what I'm saying, really, all of my thoughts are with the poor woman that he attacked. So for me, I mean, how courageous it was for her to go, and I mean, what he did is he effectively broke in her home he went in her home without her consent. Then she came upstairs and assaulted her, and now she also described that created a dangerous situation for a possible pregnancy because of those circumstances. So what he's done. So really, it was very brave for her to come at this. I'm so sorry for what she's been through at this rate. Absolutely.
But your party was willing, your party leaders, not you, was willing to look past all these other allegations against him, from the other woman who said he grabbed her, to the tattoo, the Nazi tattoo, to all the other Reddit posts that had been dug up. So they were willing to overlook all of that because he was their star.
Yeah, I mean, I refuse to overlook that. But honestly, I would really call Bernie Sanders to apologize for pushing this kind of predator more than anyone he helped him elect, and now apologize to the victims, especially the woman that she claimed that he raped her. So I don't know why you want to keep pushing these kinds of people. Maybe he should consider set a few out and stop pushing these kind of communists and people. And now people, like P. Hustle, now he has been credibly accused of rape, and that's
fairly recent too. That was only less than 5 years ago.
Well, he said that allegations are untrue, but that he's basically reviewing his options. He's obviously going to drop out, correct?
Well, he was already a dead man walking politically. So regardless, now when the entire Democratic Party in Maine has called him to leave, and now also, as far as I know, whether it's Schumer, Gillibrand, and other leadership in the DS and other people have all called him, had to go. He's a dead man walking. I don't know why he's trying to pretend that he's not done too. Even those Pod Save America people that push that dirtbag, you know, and they dismiss those things in the New York Times article. Maybe they ought to apologize to the women that clearly they didn't believe or they dismissed that. I know Democrats that have, you know, back to back endorsed and got all in on Swalwell and were on the Plattner train as well too. So maybe stop, you know, getting on bed with absolute dirtbags, someone like Plattner.
Well, the woman who's claiming she was raped gave an extensive interview tonight with Jake Tapper. This is part of what she said.
Why come forward?
A few reasons. One of the biggest ones is that I think that there are a lot of men in this world relying on the silence of women and to be where they are. And I don't want to contribute to that. I also want to just get my life back.
Yeah, but why didn't she say this in 2021? Now, I'm sure it happened, but she should have said something in 2021.
Hard words to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. It's terrible. And that's why my heart goes out to that poor woman. And now also what he's put all those other women that when the New York Times described how abusive he was. So many Democrats dismissed that or said it's not a big deal or we don't believe it or it's politically motivated.
I'm sure he's going to drop out. I'm sure. Okay. Iranian forces strike tankers during the Ayatollah funeral. This is Fox News.
People don't just walk up and say, "Hi, I'm sexually interested in you." Birth control can influence who you're attracted.
So right now, a live look as President Trump arrives in Turkey for the high-stakes NATO summit in that 747A, that new Air Force One right there. He's taking a look at.
You know why? The new plane. We got to make sure the stairs fit. You know, it's a little bit higher. It's a lot bigger.
Right.
It's a lot bigger plane. So he's like, wait a second. We got to make sure that gap is okay.
And it's fast because they're early. And at any moment, we'll see him. He'll descend the staircase. The Turkish President Erdogan is expected to meet him there at the bottom. There will be an arrival ceremony, followed by an honor guard review, and a bilateral meeting. We will have all those images live for you here on Fox and Friends.
Yeah, it looks like, bro, they've already rolled out the red carpet for the president, just waiting for him in anticipation that he was going to arrive early.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be interesting because one of the things he says he's going to surprise Erdogan with is speculated by readmitting him to have F-35s, which among the people that don't think he should be getting was most of NATO because he has the S-300 Russian defense missile system. And do you want the RF-35 to reverse engineer and be able to show a compatibility with the Russian defense system? They said use our system, don't use the Russian system. So we'll see if something's going to give there. Because among the people that don't want him to do that is Prime Minister Netanyahu, who mentioned that yesterday. Lucas Tomlinson is live in Turkey with the latest. Lucas.
Well, good morning, guys. Just a few minutes ago, President Trump and the American delegation arrived here in Ankara for a 2-day NATO summit.
For the ones that have been paying attention to the dashboard, the S&P 500 is trading at 7,486. It didn't look like there were algorithmic traders coming in. So this sell-off because of AI in the chip market and potentially even the bond issuance that had been telegraphed by some of these tech companies has weighted down the S&P 500 for today. So today probably will continue on with not a deep sell-off. We're talking, VIX is only at 16, but it's just going to trend down today. Most likely tomorrow it will go up, I suspect, or we may get individuals coming in at about 2 o'clock. But sometimes institutional investors will make sure their trades come in, are placed at 2 o'clock. So pay attention to the 2 o'clock action.
First trip abroad aboard the new Air Force One, a gift from the Qatari royal family. You saw that big American flag popping out of the hatch to the top part of the aircraft. This plane is bigger than the previous Air Force One, about 12 to 15 feet longer, in fact, and didn't have to refuel. Flew all the way from Andrews here to Ankara. You mentioned some of the issues looming over this 2-day summit. President Trump expected to allow Turkey back into the F-35 stealth fighter jet program. It is not without controversy. As you mentioned, Brian, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, currently the only country, Israel, that operates the F-35 in the Middle East, does not want to see Erdogan receive these jets. Also, Congress and the White House barred Turkey from being in the F-35 program back in 2019 because Erdogan and Turkey had acquired the modern S-400 Russian air defense system. So perhaps Erdogan will have to give that up to receive the F-35. So we'll just have to see after President Trump meets with Erdogan and holds a press conference tomorrow. Other issues looming over the summit, the future of U.S. forces in Europe, Ukraine, also Iran. Last night, while Iran laid to rest, has this massive 7-day state funeral for the late Ayatollah killed by U.S. and Israeli forces on the first day of the war. Iranian forces attacked 2 commercial ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. One of them was an LNG tanker coming from Qatar, where the largest region of natural gas. It was using the southern Omani route. And of course, the Iranians have been telling ships to use the northern Iranian route and perhaps instituting its tolls after the 60-day MOU expires. But right now, we're awaiting President Trump to disembark from the new Air Force One. You see the Turkish honor guard there in formation at parade rest. It's a large American delegation here arriving with President Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. It's going to be 2 days of meetings. There's going to be a dinner tonight hosted by Turkish President Recep Erdogan with the NATO leaders. And tomorrow, again, there'll be a press conference with President Trump alongside everyone. Guys.
And it's worth noting, the president has a real affinity with President Erdogan. They have a great personal relationship. There are some questions of whether the president would even be at this NATO summit. Obviously, he's had some harsh words for NATO. And the president said he's here solely out of personal respect for the Turkish president. And the Turkish leader, Erdogan, specifically requested that President Trump be here and engage. And he's doing that at his behest.
Yeah, and I think the other person that the president has respect for as well, Lucas, is Mark Rutte, the head of NATO. And I think he understands the president. He understands his thinking.
Skip over to Bloomberg here.
People to live. The housing costs in San Francisco, which had been soft after COVID, now is crazy. Where do you put all the workers? So I don't know. All right, very good. Appreciate it. Laura Rappaport gives an update on all things commercial real estate. Laura Rappaport, she's the founder and CEO of Northbridge, which is a Carlyle Group company. She tells me it's a good thing. We like the folks at Carlyle. We know that. Because the folks Mr. Owns the Orioles as well.
Oh, okay.
So
you can get good seats.
And she's a good guy, by the way. You can hang with me then. Looking at the markets here, S&P down 49 points, the Dow off 117, and the NASDAQ off 390.
Okay, we're going to switch to Sky News Australia. Australia faces longest economic slump in more than 3 decades. Before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. This will help to reduce the load on your pancreas so you can digest your proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. It'll help with your digestion, help you to absorb those nutrients, and keep that pancreas healthy. Please go to my store and get the digestive enzyme complex.
China test fired from a submarine yesterday, flew over multiple Pacific nations, and appears to have hit waters close to Tuvalu. Now, the missile was fired just after Anthony Albanese signed the Oceans of Peace Agreement with Fiji. China had called the launch routine, but Richard Marles and Penny Wong have branded the move as destabilizing. Joining me now to discuss this and more is News Corp senior writer Patrick Harvardian and Institute of Public Affairs research fellow Colleen Harkin. Patrick, I'll start with you here. I kind of thought that Albanese had stabilized the relationship with China. At least that's what he told me. This seems a bit destabilizing, frankly.
Look, Australia's place in this was described by somebody as roadkill, in the sense that there are much bigger issues here than Australia's regional security and what's happening in Fiji with Albanese over the past couple of days. I think the key word here is intercontinental, and that's what this missile represents. It means China could actually hit the US mainland if it came to it. And I think Australia's place in it is our security is critical. If China's going to set up military outposts on our doorstep, then that's a massive deal. But we're not the main story here. This is all about the US versus China.
Absolutely. But, Colleen, this is a disturbing thing to have happen just coincidentally when this pact has just been signed. Mike Pizzullo, the former intelligence chief, he has said that, well, we need to be sure that this wasn't just a coincidence here. Such a test takes time to set up. There have to be ships downrange, track it for telemetry, and so on. Do you think that this could have been a deliberate signal timed with intelligence China may have obtained about this deal being signed to also send a signal to the South Pacific and Australia about the growing security pacts that have been signed here in the Pacific?
Well, I mean, probably all of the above is an issue to concern ourselves with, because to see a long-range missile in our neighbourly waters has got to kind of be the warning shot to say that the old idea that our geographic and isolated location was somehow part of our security consciousness that has to end. That illusion has to end, and we have to get much more serious about our security and our defence relationships with our alliances and our own sovereign defence mechanisms that we have. So we sort of seem to have been a bit sort of laissez-faire for a very long time about what we consider we need or we don't need, and I think this is an absolute warning shot to say we have to get serious about how we upskill our defence mechanisms.
Well, and Patrick, I just want to stick with you for 1 second on this topic here, because it is, I think, very important. Richard Marles, the Defense Secretary, and also acting PM while the PM is away, said that this just shows that we have to be ready. But the implication of his statement is that we are ready. I don't think we're anywhere near close to ready if China really decides to act up in the Pacific.
We're nowhere near it, are we, James? I mean, look, we might be getting 3 subs in, 8 years' time or something. China has been, saber rattling, throughout the Pacific for a long time. And this is an escalation. I think to describe it as routine is silly. It brings the US into the equation. And Australia's place, as Colleen, rightly pointed out, we're not protected by our isolation anymore. This missile proves that these are really dangerous times. We need to be talking about it, and we need to have a defence budget that recognises the threat at our door.
And yet we didn't see anything like that come out of that May 12 budget, which we're still talking about. The only thing that it's has the capability to blow up is house prices. But anyway, moving on. Labour is now in a bit of hot water after new data has revealed that Australia's migration program is, who knew, actually propped up by family members and not the skilled migrants our workforce needs. Now, Colleen, I'll start with you on this because the Institute of Public Affairs has done great analysis for the Department of Home Affairs data from 2024-25. We've got that in the Daily Telegraph today, and found that of the 132,148 permanent skilled visas granted over a 12-month period, only about 33% actually went to someone approved as skilled. Colleen, what can you tell us about this? And shouldn't we be focusing more on actually training Australians to get jobs rather than just simply looking overseas?
Yeah, this is a great work of my colleague, Dr. Kevin Yu. 185,000 permanent skilled migrant visas, 71% of those. I think the average Australian thinks that means that 71% of those people are the skilled migrants. And when you find out that well less than half of them are the skilled people and the rest of them is family members and people connected with, I think people are very surprised to understand how those stats work out. The other thing, little as a side issue here, 185,000.
Just imagine what happens when they really ramp up the vacation birthing industry in the United States, and they get citizenship because the child is born an American citizen. Now, I know this is about Australia, but I'm going on a tangent here. The birther issue in the United States, you'll have these people coming from China or some other country wanting to have a child that is an American citizen, and then they give birth, the kid's an American citizen, they'll go back to their home country, let's say China, raise the child for 18 years, and all of a sudden the child moves to the United States, and then it opens up the floodgates of the family members coming in and living in the United States. Now, are these skilled individuals, the family members? Most likely not. Most likely not. It's important. A country needs to be able to control their borders. And when you can control your borders, you can filter what type of immigrant you want into your country and how they're going to improve the society, improve the economics, instead of just opening up the floodgates. Because there's a lot of riffraff out there, and a lot of riffraff don't deserve to be in, let's say, the United States, because it's only going to make things worse. If you're in a bathtub and it's nice and soapy, and you're taking your bath, and then all of a sudden someone's dumping mud water into it, are you going to enjoy your bath? No, of course not. Is your bath healthy? Probably not. No. But unfettered, that's what's going to happen. Is that it's going to bring down what is good and turn it into mud. This is the reason why all nations have to control their borders.
Given out in that year is still double what it used to be. We still, it used to have 100,000 immigrants every year for basically the whole of the 20th century until the end of the Howard era. So even at those numbers, it is still double what we had when we were considered ourselves a successful immigration cohort. But the average Australian, I'm sure, has no understanding about how those numbers are being manipulated, and it is genuinely a con, because what we keep getting told is that we need these immigrants to fill these jobs, but we're not importing skilled immigrants to fill whatever these jobs might happen to be.
Exactly.
We still have huge vacancies in skilled areas, and we have hundreds of thousands of people coming in who are not skilled.
And not only that, we're not doing enough to train our own local people here that we're producing ourselves to become skilled workers themselves. But Patrick, this seems like it politically could have a lot of potency, because it gets the debate about migration off of the field of monoculture versus multiculturalism, which is quite contested and contentious, and has, let's be honest with it about it, a fair bit of baggage around it. This is very pragmatic data here that I think that if the Liberal Party wanted to hook into it, would be a pretty powerful thing for them to campaign on.
Absolutely. And look, I think the other point too is the skilled migrant program takes in something like 480 occupations in theory. And, we like to think if we're getting skilled workers, they're going to be electricians or plumbers or carpenters, people who are going to build stuff. And I mean, the numbers are nowhere near where we thought they were. The political rhetoric has been, we're bringing in all these skilled migrants. Well, less than half of those who come in on a skilled migrant visa are actually skilled workers. And a lot of them aren't tradies. We need people to build stuff. This is very illuminating. It's really interesting. Well, yes, it does play the electorate.
Look, I just think that, when you have this idea that not only are the people doing the things that they're supposed to, but that they're bringing with them people who are further imposts on our infrastructure. I just think it's so deadly for labor, but they seem to be getting away with it for now. But it is a good question, though, how long, because we've got other news that suggests that Australia is set for its longest stretch of subpar economic growth in more than 35 years. Deloitte Access Economics has downgraded its real economic growth forecast for Australia to 1.3% for the financial year. And not only that, they say growth is going to stay below 2% for the longest period since the global recession.
Yeah, I think there's a couple reasons why Australia is having a problem. First reason, China is slowing down. It has economic problems. So they're not importing as many raw materials as they used to, especially, let's say, 10, 15 years ago. And a big part of the Australian economy is selling raw materials to China. So they're heavily linked economically to the growth of China. Now, if China starts to have a more robust economy, then Australia most likely will benefit from it. But that whole super cycle of commodity trading and shipping that took place starting at around the beginning of the century, the 21st century, that has died down a great amount because the build out in China has already happened. China made a lot of cities that were just ghost cities. No one's living in them. So there's zero reason to see that the Australian economy is going to really be robust. Now let's see what they have to say, but I think it has a big, it's heavily related on this commodity selling to China.
Early 1990s. Colleen, this is just horrific news. We've also seen the news that, we've been in a per capita recession for 10 of the last 15 quarters, that our inflation is almost the highest in the developed world, short of Iceland. We're going to keep getting poorer and poorer every week, so long as this goes on, relative to the rest of the world, aren't we?
Definitely, and I think the average person on the street can feel it. Like, we can feel that our standard of living is decreasing. The cost of living is an extraordinary burden on people. And the shocking part about this is that we don't have to be here. This is all self-inflicted. And so I think that level of frustration amongst people and the desire to see change is growing stronger every day, because we used to have the cheapest energy in the world. We used to have one of the highest standards of living in the world. And we can sort of feel that we are literally going backwards.
Yeah, and Patrick, as you might know, I travel the United States probably at least once a year. Every time I've gone back, it does feel like that country is getting richer compared to us, that we are falling behind. Again, potent electoral material for a party that wants...
This is the reason why I keep on saying, do not bet against the United States. It's not just Dr. Paul Cottrell saying this. J.P. Morgan, back in the early 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s. Late 1800s, early 1900s, J.P. Morgan stated, don't bet against the United States. She will always surprise you. There's something dynamic about our system of government, our economics. We are a prosperous society because we are aligned with the Enlightenment and we are aligned with capitalism. And we have property rights through our constitutional republic. Plus, we are the right size. We have the proper composition of the population that is productive. We have a large enough country to have the resources that we need. Let me give you an example. Japan, very productive, but don't have resources and a smaller amount of land. So they reach their potential and their S-curve for the economy much quicker. And then all of a sudden stagnation. The United States has that proper size. It's not too big, it's not too small. It has plentiful resources to allow for a dynamic economy, and it has the entrepreneurship ethos and the rule of law and relatively good healthcare. So when you add in all of the ingredients, there are very few countries that have what we have. Don't bet against the United States. Now, yes, we could have a crisis, we could have a terrorist attack, we could have the stock market crash, but never, ever, ever, ever bet against the United States. You will fail if you do.
Talked about it. That's right. And look, we consider ourselves a lucky country, but we have blown it in so many ways in recent years. If you don't have growth, your standards of living are going to drop. It's that simple. And we're feeling it, as Colleen says, whether it's power prices, we've got all this stuff in the ground that we export to the rest of the world, but we pay the highest prices in the world. This is certainly going to come to bear politically as it goes on, because it shouldn't be happening.
All right, next.
I needed 10 sequin cowboy hats for a bachelorette party, but
Legionnaire's disease seems to be a problem in New York now. All right, let's listen into Al Jazeera. But before we do, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. Myotrol will help to build muscle. It helps with the gene expression. It's really important. It has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression and build muscle and maintain it. If you're 40 years of age, it's harder to gain muscle. It's harder to maintain it. Many people atrophy. But you can reverse that by taking Myotrol. Do some resistance training. Build that muscle back up and maintain it. This is perfect for males or for females if they're 40 years of age or older. If you are an athlete, younger or older, you will also benefit from Myotrol because it will soak up free radicals. It will help to bring down inflammation. You'll be able to recover quicker after your workout and build muscle for your sport. This is the reason why I keep on saying, if you want to improve your health and slow down the aging process, pay attention to sports medicine. So get the Myotrol, and if you want, you should stack it with the Gladiator barley to get further muscular gains. And with better musculature, you're protecting your neurons. How? Because of myokines and the BDNF, concentrations will go up and they are neuroprotective. Vitamin B complex, very important if you're 40 years of age or older, to rev up your cellular metabolism, improve your energy production. The first 4 B vitamins in this complex will help with the electron transport chain to increase your ATP levels, and vitamin B12 helps to protect neurons. And resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression, helps the basal layer of your skin. This stacks really well with C60 to help skin health. Resveratrol soaks up free radicals because it's an antioxidant. It's going to help with the health of your mitochondria. It's going to boost up those energy levels. And it helps to get rid of cells that are in senescence. Cells that stop dividing and just sit there, they collect garbage called lipofuscin, and they don't perform as well. You need to get rid of them. And for tissues that can regenerate, by getting rid of the senescent cells, you're sending signals to allow for new cells to be populated in that tissue. So over time, when you're getting rid of those senescent cells, the actual telomere length, the average telomere length in that tissue will actually be longer. The longer your telomere lengths are, the younger the tissue. The less methylation that you have in the tissue, the younger the tissue. So there you have genetics and you have epigenetics. And your epigenetics changes over time. And we accumulate methylation of certain genes, and our gene expression doesn't perform as well as when we were younger. The whole idea is to slow down that methylation and to reverse it. That is how anti-aging protocols work. You're attacking the vectors that cause higher chances of methylation, and you're preventing that. So you're slowing down the methylation process. In some areas of your epigenetics, you can reverse it. You're bringing down inflammation. You're soaking up free radicals. You're boosting up energy levels. And these are very important vectors to slow down the aging process. So please go to my store, get the resveratrol, and it is synergistic with C60. You'll get more benefit from the resveratrol if you stack it with C60. Please go to my store, use discount 5. I want you to save some money. It's all caps, discount number 5. You get $5 off. Click the link in the description to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the supplements, get healthy. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg.
Their reindustrialization of their defense sector at a very critical time. There's also, of course, another story that's floating, and the president spoke about this when he sat down with Turkish President Erdogan, and that's the F-35s. Turkey has wanted F-35s for years. Legally, they are not allowed to have them because they are in the Russian S-400 system. They would have to really disarm those S-400s, put them in a third country in order for the U.S. to move ahead. But the president made clear today that is his intent. And right now, Turkey, which is becoming a very strategic partner.
Now, I've been listening to these clips about Turkey all day today. It's very important to understand that Erdogan is becoming autocratic. So Trump is aligning with Erdogan, the one that's running Turkey, who is trending towards autocracy. And in hopes that he's going to be a leveraging point for NATO, and that we would be able to sell some equipment to them. But can we really trust Erdogan to do that? Trump does this deal, we sell F-35s, and then all of a sudden he reneges on the deal once he gets the equipment. I think we need to be very, very, very careful with Erdogan, because sometimes he doesn't help the United States. If you really pay attention, sometimes he does. And he is trending towards a dictatorship. But Trump seems to love these people, for some reason. Trump is not George Washington in terms of, would he have stepped down as general? Would Trump have stepped down if he was the general of the revolution? Most likely not, because of his ego. But this alignment with Erdogan, I think, is dangerous, and we need to really have a focus and observe this underneath a microscope, because I think there are aspects to Erdogan's personality that can't be trustworthy.
Most people are looking around 80. That was last year's highs. We're good levels. We're at 70 now. It's basically the apex of the bell curve of trading for 20 years. It's just a question of what might stop it from a normal rotation back towards the lower in the range for the last 20 years. You know my views. I still think it's going to do that. The key thing for that potential to happen is obviously a little more detente in the Middle East, but a little pressure in the stock market will do that. So right now the market's looking up at maybe it's 200-day moving average around 74, 75. It's at 70 now. It's a bear market that's reset. And I just know I don't know what's going to make it go higher, something shocking, but normalization make it go lower. And that's basically what Mr. Trump needs for the midterm elections.
Why is it continuing to go lower? Because the Strait of Hormuz is still blocked off, and the conflict has gone on, I think, a lot longer than anybody thought it would, or than most people thought it would. So why has oil not crept back up?
This whole rally accentuated the most powerful force in commodities that's only growing, that's price elasticity, particularly in crude oil. Now, we got that from Russia's invasions of Ukraine that really kicked in technology replacing crude oil, and actually pressuring both sides for prices of supply and demand. Now it's kicking in now. I'm just updating an outlook for crude oil for Q3, and we see the surplus of U.S. and Canadian crude oil liquid fuels approaching 9 million barrels a day. Just a few years ago, that was basically flat. That's for next year. So there's only one force that's going to stop that, and that's lower prices. So what this did is just shifted the people reiterating the price maker status is shifted.
Because the tankers are moving through the strait and insurance companies are reducing the pressure in terms of prices and in terms of being able to insure these fleets. The forward-looking aspect to this is driving the oil prices down as they're unclogging that whole strait issue. And the bet is that most of the kinetic activity is already happened. Now, we could still have kinetic activity, and there would be a temporary spike and then come back down. But the big move in oil is already played out. What's going to happen is that as it's trending down, countries will take advantage of that lower price, especially when it's in the 60s, maybe 68, 65, and they're going to have to fill their strategic reserves. Japan will need to, South Korea, Europe, the United States. And so what's going to happen is that then the price will start to go up. Now, there's another dynamic that's happening. OPEC is starting to fracture. And they're competing with each other now for market share. So they're going to overproduce on top of that. So you have overproduction that's taking place and the unclogging of the strait that's driving price down. But then there's going to be a little bit of a support level to keep prices up or at least stabilized as their strategic reserves get refilled. This is the reason why I don't believe it's going to $40 or $45 a barrel. It's probably going to stay at around 65 as fair value. So there's probably going to be a trading range between about 59 and about 65 when we stabilize here.
OPEC to the Western Hemisphere desk. And it's not just crude oil. We've had a pretty good peak this year in corns and potentially in soybeans and gold, silver, platinum, and palladium and iron ore. You see that trend there? The pump and dump trend is starting to trickle down. That's why I'm really worried about the stock market going down, because it's feeling to me very much like 2008.
You know, when I think about the farmer, you know, I think you taught us kind of what to focus on: corn, soybeans, all that kind of stuff. Soybeans.
2008. We're talking Lehman. We're nowhere near Lehman. But I would be concerned with the S&P 500 once we hit near year end of that target of 7,800 or 8,000. Then I would have to reassess. You might want to go 50% in cash. I don't know. We need to take a look at the dynamics that are going on at year end. It's too far out into the future to really assess that. But today it's trending down, but there are support levels. There are support levels at 7,200. There are a major support level at 6,800. And you have 7,000, which is the round, you know, the typical round number for a support level. So even if it went down 485 points for the S&P 500 over a series of days, it would be perfect to buy because it's probably going to retest the high. So I'm not too worried about this. Actually, it trending down a little bit is good for you in the long run if you are nibbling at these down trends. So I nibbled today. I bought in the S&P 500 just a little bit as a tactical move. And as it's trending down, I'll just nibble a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then eventually it'll pop back up. So I'm not too worried about it. The S&P 500, or not the S&P 500, natural gas is trading at 3.279. So I'm accumulating shares as it's going up. So when it starts to go back down, I get my profitability. And that trend, that trading range is roughly around 3.3 to about 3.1. So we're at 3.279. So it's getting closer to the point where it's going to correct and move downward. Plus, in the summer, normally natural gas is lower. Now, we do have some record temperatures that were during the holiday and across the nation. So that's more strain on the electric grid because of air conditioning. But because of the rainstorms that came in, temperature prices went down almost 20 degrees compared to where they were. So I wouldn't be surprised that we hear in the news that maybe natural gas has a little bit more inventory than expected, and therefore it'll sell back closer to 3.1, maybe even to 3. I think fair value is 2.9, but we might not see that this year because of the El Nino effect.
Dave, that's good for the farmer, right?
It's great. It's just what they needed. It's hopium that the Chinese will come and buy more soybeans. They probably will, but it's not economic for them. So maybe state-run enterprises will do it for political reasons, because U.S. soybeans right now are a little bit more expensive there than Brazil. Remember, Brazil just had a big harvest, and we have more we planted this year, and the rain has been ample. So I'm really worried what soybeans have been doing for the last few years as they go down back below 10 or so. Right now they're around 12 as we head towards the peak of the harvest in September and potentially October. And same with corn. The December contract pumped up to near 5 just a couple months ago, and they got to a new contract low. It's pumping up again. And if the cycle's normal, if we don't get a bad weather summer, which we're already getting plenty of rain, cycles are probably going to go lower. Particularly, it's all the same trade now with crude oil going lower, Paul.
And 30 seconds left for our steak lovers out there. I see cattle.
I don't think it's tied to corn.
Just a couple of percent. Have we seen peak cattle prices?
We might have. I think it's the typical high price cure kicking in. Now, we've had problems with inventories for a while and certain diseases and things, but it is peak driving season, peak consumption season, and peak barbecue season.
Yeah. How much got in the ranch? There's another job I'm going to do. Yeah, rancher.
All right, let's see here.
Tumbling. The electric vehicle maker saying it's going to sell.
Please go to my store at the-studio-reykjavik.com and get the collagen. Collagen will help with your skin, your hair, your nails, help with your musculature, help with bone density, help with your joints. Take it every day. This is a month's supply. Gladiator barley helps to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, and it'll also help to build muscle. You can stack this with Myotrol and with the Boomer Boost. Very effective. And by building muscle and stacking it with the Boomer Boost, you're really supercharging your ability to control your A1C levels, which are your blood glucose levels. Super important, because by controlling your blood glucose levels, you have better weight, you have less inflammation at the vascular level. Individuals that have high glucose levels in their bloodstream have problems with vascular disease, have problems with brain function. So you need to control your A1C levels. So Gladiator barley does a lot of things for you. And by soaking up those free radicals and bringing down that inflammation, you're also helping your immune system and your endocrine system. So please go to my store, get the Gladiator barley. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Have become the real bottleneck for this stage of the AI infrastructure build-out. So we've seen huge gains in stocks like Micron, SanDisk, Western Digital, Seagate, and we've seen basically flat performance overall in the names that have otherwise been sort of the market leaders for, like I said, for years.
This doesn't seem like such a huge shift. It seems like more of a semantics issue, like shifting money around within the AI space still. Do you see it as a significant shift?
Well, I think what it really shows is that people are really trying to go where the AI trade is going. So right now we have all of these sort of traditional Mag 7 companies. I'm talking particularly about the hyperscalers, which is Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, Meta, companies that are really spending aggressively to build out their AI infrastructure. People have sort of moved away from those. Now, it's been sort of a mixed bag even within that group. Alphabet's doing pretty well because people remain pretty positive about its AI position. Microsoft has really struggled this year because people aren't sure about its AI position or what it's really getting out of the tens of billions of dollars that it's spending on this infrastructure. So right now there is a lot of questioning and concern about what is all this money really going to? What kind of return are they going to see from it? And at least for the time being, people feel a lot more comfortable being in the companies that are the beneficiaries of all that spending, which, like I said, is the infrastructure, complex, memory, other parts of chips.
So, Brian, I'm old enough to remember the day when stock would go up when a company would take its CapEx numbers up here, maybe like 3 or 4 quarters ago. That game seems to be out of fashion. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think there's been a real change in sentiment in terms of how investors are viewing these kinds of aggressive CapEx plans. Now, I think people, you talk to a lot of investors, they say, I still feel pretty positive. I think they know what they're doing. But at least for the time being, we're really seeing an impact on free cash flow, on their cash piles. Some companies are raising equity or tapping debt markets. There's been a lot of complicating factors that have just gone beyond, spending money, spend $1 on AI infrastructure, you get $1 back in revenue growth or something like that. It's not nearly that simple anymore. I think people are taking a much more jaundiced look on this type of strategy, even though I think they remain pretty positive that over a longer term period, it will eventually start paying out.
Ryan, excellent reporting. Thanks so much for joining us. Ryan Blastelica, equities reporter for Bloomberg News, coming to us from Chicago. This is Bloomberg.
Now on Bloomberg Intelligence.
I just want to make a comment about Peterson. All right. And, this is the famous podcaster. He's a psychologist. I love this title. All right. He has his Peterson Academy. Right? And he has this title for the actual clip. This Independence Day, enjoy 1 year free and reclaim your mind. But yet you have to pay for his university. These people, they're ridiculous. They're ridiculous. I won't even listen to Peterson. All right? All you got to do is read books. All right? Pay attention to the news and how it may affect your life. Engage in your family and life and your friends. Don't be doom scrolling. Stay away from being an annuity to these tech bros like Zuckerberg or Larry Ellison or even Elon Musk or the Google guys or Apple. Stop being an annuity for them. You are literally turning into a slave. There's a great documentary about Adobe software and how they used to be a very important, and probably still is, but they're losing momentum, but a very important designer software. Graphic design, Photoshop, Illustrator, also building websites, video editing. So they have a huge suite and they had a very strong following. And Adobe and Apple, they went hand in hand in the early days of the 80s and the 90s. Right? This is the reason why a lot of the graphic artists and the creatives bought Adobe and Apple's. Right? So Adobe decided to stop doing their suite where you spend $2,300 or whatever, and you own it. And now they just charge you a monthly fee or an annual fee. It's like an annual fee that you can be charged monthly. But if you decide to cancel, there is a break of contract fee. Their revenues went up by a lot by doing this subscription model. But do you really own the software? And how do you access the content, your proprietary content, your IP, when you no longer own the software? You can't access it. So what has happened is that if you were a creative that had a business, let's say a graphic designer, and you have been working for 20 years and you have all of this IP, you can't access unless you continually pay the annuity to Adobe. And this is very similar to when people owned the land. Then all of a sudden, the kingdom needed to levy taxes. And some of those taxes were, well, you have to give X amount of bushels of corn or wheat to the kingdom, or heads of cattle or whatever. But eventually they decided it's just easier to use currency to have the landowners to pay the taxes. But then the taxes started to go up because of funding wars, funding the lifestyle of the king and this growing kingdom. Eventually what happened is that these individuals were forced to sell. Now, there was somewhat of a proto-capitalist thing that was going on also, where individuals were coming in and trying to buy land, but the people didn't want to sell the land. So there were wars that took place on top of trying to confiscate some of the land. But the land had to be worked. So this is where you have the serfs and the feudalism that's taking place. So what happened was that you had individuals that had ownership of the land or was using the land, and eventually they lost it either because of higher taxation, loss through warfare, and they became indentured servants working the land. Now the plague happened, and eventually there weren't enough laborers, and there was some sort of equalization and some more freedoms that were all allotted to the survivors during the Black Death, on the other end of the Black Death. But the lesson learned here is this you won't own anything mentality that came out of the World Economic Forum is serfdom. No different than what was happening in Europe. This is definitely antithetical to the Enlightenment, and it's definitely antithetical to the constitutional republic that we have. But people have bought into this idea that you are now a techno-bro slave. You work for the tech bros. You are a serf. You no longer have ownership of your IP or your ability to access IP unless you access through their gateway. You no longer own the land to be able to harvest your crops. You have to rent the land from someone else that owns your land. This is a problem with tech bros. But everyone bought into this. The same thing's happening in automotive, where no one can afford to buy a car, you have to lease a car. So the point that I'm making here with Peterson Academy, this Independence Day, enjoy 1 year free and reclaim your mind. Because he has the secrets to how to free yourself. No, I doubt it. He's just trying to make more money on people. All right. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Max 35 or the Cleanse or Max 14. Take a teaspoon a day every day. Swish in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds, and swallow it. This will boost up your innate immune system. It will neutralize your oral cavity, help to neutralize your oral pharynx, maintain your mucosal barrier, and help the health of your epithelial cells. I've been doing this for over 6 years every day. Super important, because by neutralizing and improving your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, you're not going to get as sick as often. And when you don't get sick as often, you age slower. People that get sick all the time, sorry, but you age faster. Because what happens is you're increasing more necrosis of the cells, either irreversible necrosis or reversible necrosis. But either way, it does damage. So you do not want to get sick as often. People, you just watch them. If they are chronic people that get sick all the time, they age faster. So I'm giving you a recipe on how to not get as sick as often. All right, structural nanosilver gels, dual purpose. You put it on your hands. You can put it on your skin daily, and this will help to improve your skin as a topical. If you have a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn on your skin, apply it onto that lesion, and it'll help to heal it quicker by about a third of the time. It'll speed up the process by about 33%. In addition, during the cold season or even the allergy season, lightly coat your nostrils. It will neutralize those allergens. And by preventing you getting sick, guess what? You don't age as fast. It's very effective. Now you can get it in the quick dispenser or the tube form, either one. But make sure you have some at work and have some at home. You never know when you need it. It's dual purpose. Please go to my store, studio-reykjavik.com. And lastly, structural nanosilver toothpaste. Whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, helps to improve your oral cavity. It neutralizes because it has the structural nanosilver, and it doesn't have any fluoride. You know why? Because fluoride makes you stupid. So please go to my store, studio-reykjavik.com, and get this very high quality toothpaste. Get a few tubes for your household. Make sure you use discount 5 and you get $5 off. And by improving your oral cavity, you're also improving your cardiovascular system and your valves for your heart. A lot of people don't know this. Poor oral hygiene can lead to problems with cardiovascular issues. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Who served as the Democrat senator from West Virginia for 14 years. He left the party in 2024, registered as an independent. Senator, thank you for coming on the show. Great to have you. I wanted to kind of bring this soundbite up because this is El Sayed. He's talking about the fact that, you know, there's not a great deal of support in his mind for Chuck Schumer. Watch this.
We want whoever's going to give us the best shot at leading to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, pass Medicare for all. And I know right now the leadership that we've had for too long on the Democratic side is a lot more interested in courting big money into our politics. We've watched as money has come out of our politics and we don't yet have Medicare for all, not even a movement for it. And so we need leadership that is going to lead forthrightly on these questions.
Yeah, but he's talking about Chuck Schumer there, but it could easily be Hakeem Jeffries. Not a lot of support for him again among the Democratic Socialists. The party, your former party, sir, is moving farther left, and they don't like leadership.
Well, that's why I'm not a member of my former party anymore, because they're moving too far left. I told Joe Biden, who's been a friend for many, many years, I never thought that President Biden was ever that far left, but when he, this 2020 election, his staff took him so far left, I said, Mr. President, they're taking you down the primrose path. You can't return from it. It just got worse and worse and worse. So now it's even further left than I ever thought it could get. I don't think that's part of the Democratic Party. They really ought to start their own party. You know, the Democrats I grew up with and that I have known all my life were hardworking, but they were fiscally responsible and socially compassionate. And I think that's how most people are. But then it became to the point where they wanted to take care of more people that were able-bodied, capable people that could work and should work, that didn't work, and that's what they lost all of the labor in my state. And my state flipped completely within a 1 decade period. No one's ever seen that happen so quickly. And I tried to explain that to them. You have to have a very, very tough border. You have to have a very strong border control there. You have to have a pathway forward to citizenship when the people come the right way. That's just part of who we are as a country, and it should be accepted. If a Democrat can't say that, then they're not going to be able to get back in control. And I would say that the gentleman that you were just interviewing there, or you showed on the clip, I would think that my friend Mike Rogers is pretty much elated about that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting to me is you talk about the Democratic Party kind of moving away and forming their own party, but it seems to be the opposite. I mean, there's a lot of these DSA members that came out and said they are not in support of Hakeem Jeffries, and now it appears to me that Hakeem Jeffries is kind of taking steps their way, trying to acquiesce them. It doesn't seem like a move you would support, sir.
Not at all. No, you have to stand for something. You have to be very strong about what you stand for and be very clear. And you have to mean what you say and say what you mean. The thing about the Democratic Party, they have lost basically their focus that there has to be accountability and responsibility. Trish, you just can't give everything away. That's why I could not vote for the BBB, the Build Back Better bill. But you know, you have, the parties have had total control, and they wanted total control. Both, you have the MAGA, and you have from the progressives all the way to the DSA, and then you have the Democrat and Republican parties that control the primaries, and this is what they get. When they control the primaries, you have the activists really get involved, Trace, and be able to take over. And 16, 17, 18% turnout during the primary election doesn't take that many votes to get elected.
I want to give you
elections are a little different thing.
Pardon me for interrupting. So I want to give you one more example, because the California governor, who many believe is going to run for president, Gavin Newsom, he said this. He thinks that, you know what, this DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, great, bring them on. He wants the tent to get even bigger. He doesn't care who's in it. Watch.
And it's very healthy. I don't think it's unhealthy. So I completely reject this notion. And look, I'm for addition, not subtraction. The Democratic Party needs to be in the...
See what I mean about relativism? They think everything's okay. All perspectives are equal. Everyone, no. Like all cells are equal. Well, what about cancer cells? You want cancer cells in your body? I doubt it. And that's what's happening here. It's a cancer. Postmodern ethics, postmodern philosophy is not aligned with what made this country great. Because what made this country great is the Enlightenment. Bigger tent. Oh yeah, we're gonna be, no, it's literally gonna hurt them in the long run. But they need to learn. What's gonna happen is they'll gain some momentum, maybe some control in the legislature. They'll realize their policies are crazy, and then it will revert back to sanity, not maintain insanity. When someone aligns with postmodern philosophy, always question it. Just look at the art that comes out of postmodernism. Does it really look good? No, of course not. It's all about the ability to extract money in the art market for the artist, instead of actually creating something of value, real value, of visual value, not some monetary value. So just so pop culture. Can you honestly say that the modern artists today are of any near the quality of Michelangelo or Da Vinci? I mean, they're in a different universe, but it took time for them to make their work, so it costs more. And the artists today, they want something quick. Can you reproduce it? And the quality goes down. This is the same problem here. It's aligned with a postmodern philosophy.
Business, if we're going to get back into the majority. Yeah, we need to get our base out there, we got to turn out, but we also need to be, and I'm not offended by this notion of a big tent, and I think it's important though that big tent is a big tent.
Yeah, he apparently is not offended at the fact that that Big Ten is moving further and further to the left, sir. Your final comments?
Well, my final comment would be this. I feel sorry for Gavin Newsom and all the people that believe by just expanding the tent is going to make your party stronger and better. You have to have character. You have to have discipline. You have to understand what you're dealing with. And if you don't believe that this country is the greatest country
You
on
need
earth,
to have a North Star. You need to have some sort of foundation. And the problem with the postmodern philosophy is there's no foundation. Anything goes. Everything's okay. There is no foundation. And then people get taken advantage of. But when you're looking at the Enlightenment, there is a foundation there. It's about seeking truth and understanding and moving forward. It's life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And under John Locke's definition of the Enlightenment, it's also about property rights, the ability for an individual to gain wealth. But the postmodernists say, if you have wealth, we should be able to take it away. Why? Because they don't have a North Star. You have to have a North Star. What's the foundation of your ethics, of your philosophy? When you have to do the oral defense of a dissertation, you have to state what the theoretical framework is, so you understand where the researcher is coming from. What's the theoretical framework of the modern Democratic Party? And this new aspect to it, the DSA, it's aligned with postmodernism. And that is antithetical to a constitutional republic.
bless this country. We have a responsibility to the next generation. You can't just throw caution to the wind and say, we want no police. We want no oversight whatsoever, no accountability, and we're not going to hold you responsible. That's not who we are. That's not how we were raised. That's not what this country believes. And I'll guarantee it, they will not be successful. They will not be successful if they alter to that. And if the leadership of the Democratic Party, both Akeem and Chuck, aren't tough about what they want and how they're going to run the party, then they're going to get run out of the party.
You talk about loving your country. I know it was last comment here, but I have to ask you, Fox News polling came out last week, 27% of Democrats proud of their country. Final thoughts.
That's a shame. Just a second. Not much. Well, what Democrats are left in West Virginia, they're still Democrats. You know, that's why the independence. Trace, why independence was 50%. Almost 50% of people that are registered to participate in voting in America are independent like me now. No party affiliation. We're disenfranchised. We need to gather our own thoughts and our own strength and start voting where independents have support. And when they get to Washington, they can bring common sense back.
The problem comes in is that if you register as an independent in certain states, you can't be part of the primaries for the Republican or the Democratic Party. And I have that problem. I vote Republican, but I much prefer to be an independent. But you can't register as an independent if you want to participate in the primary system. Now, what do you do with states like New York? You know, the whole party system is rigged. But there's a cancer that is starting to emerge, and that's the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Now the question is how much at the federal level will they gain? At the state level, I think they will succeed, because if you're a blue state, you're only going to get bluer. You're only going to get crazier.
Now, both parties get back to the middle. But if the Democrats think they can go left and get the majority, they're wrong. That will not happen.
Senator, great to have you on the show. Thank you, sir.
Well, good to be with you, Tracy. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is a vitamin that will help to do the gene expression, the proper gene expression that you need for your tissues. It's a gene expression cofactor, really important. It also helps with cardiovascular system. It helps with your immune system because it helps to get rid of cells to go into apoptosis if they're infected. Vitamin D3 will help with bone density. So please take vitamin D3 every day. And also, vitamin D3 helps with your joints and reducing arthritis. If you do have arthritis and you want to relieve that pain, use this topical, Super Strong Relief. It works within about 90 seconds, but it's not just for arthritis. If you have tension headaches, you can apply this to your forehead or temples or even neck muscles to reduce that tension headache. If you have a pulled muscle, it'll help to relieve the pain from the pulled muscle or a sprain. So please go to my store and use the Super Strong Relief. It's a great product. It works very fast. It works within about 90 seconds, and it's perfect for individuals that have arthritis. And C60. C60 is a potent antioxidant. It's going to soak up free radicals. It's going to help bring down inflammation at the tissue level and at the cellular level, help to improve the mitochondria, you'll have more energy, helps to improve your immune system and your endocrine system, helps to improve your vascular system because it reduces the concentration of oxidized LDL, so you have less plaque formation, super important. And it helps with your dermal layer, not your dermal layer, it helps with your basal layer. C60 will soak up those free radicals, bring down that inflammation at the basal layer of your skin, and that's where your new skin cells are being produced. And then they move up the skin layers, and then it will improve that dermal layer and then improve the topical layer. But it starts at the basal layer. So C60 works at the basal layer. This stacks really well with resveratrol to help with skin health. So please go to my store, get the C60. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil. But take it every day, a teaspoon a day, every day. And you will notice that you have energy, you'll recover quicker after a workout, and over time, you will look younger, and your immune system and your endocrine system will perform better, your tissues will perform better, your organ systems will perform better. And when that happens, your body has more vitality. So please go to my store and get the C60. I want to play this last video from France 24 about the NATO summit.
Other news, Donald Trump has touched down in Ankara, Turkey this afternoon for a crucial NATO summit. Ahead of his arrival, European NATO leaders were unveiling arms deals worth tens of billions of dollars. This to drive home a message to Donald Trump that they are listening to his demand that Europe spend more on defense.
New contracts were signed and more big announcements were made. Altogether worth tens of billions of dollars and growing. That means more air defense systems and strike capabilities, more satellite communications, more ammunition, more drones and counter-drone systems, and increased resilience and preparedness.
Well, Trump today has held a bilateral meeting with the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Trump saying then he is considering selling F-35 fighter jets to Ankara.
Decision we're going to make. We have a very good relationship. I would think that many people, I can tell you, many people, including the people sitting right here, thinks, why wouldn't we do that? We have a better relationship with Turkey, and Turkey's been in many ways much more loyal than other countries that we think would be loyal. So, yeah, it's something certainly we would consider. It's a great plane. It's the best, currently the best plane by far. And it's certainly something we will consider, yeah.
And our international editor, Ketevan Gordestani, is with me to talk a little bit about that meeting and the summit more broadly. So on the F-35s, it does sound like Trump is moving ahead on the sale. How significant would that be if confirmed?
Well, look, it would be pretty significant, and it seems that Donald Trump at least really wants to do that, not for any strategic reason, but as we heard there, because he feels that Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been loyal and more loyal than other countries that have been getting those F-35. So again, this way of looking at things of Donald Trump, which is rewarding loyalty rather than rewarding, he could have said, because they are our allies. But for all the praise and the tight relationship between the two men, actually getting that sale back on track is easier said than done. You have to go back to what happened there and why these sales are being held up. What happened was that the United States back in 2019 expelled Turkey from their F-35 program and then followed that a year later by implementing sanctions on Turkey under the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. Why? Because Turkey had acquired Russia's S-400 missile defense system. And so the United States, in response, held up those F-35s. Now, there was a question from a reporter during that press briefing asking Donald Trump whether he still had any concerns about that defense system that was bought to the Russian. And Donald Trump seemed a little bit lost, as if he hadn't understood the question or didn't really know what was being asked of him. And he asked over and over what the reporter meant when she was asking about that question. So that was also interesting. But Donald Trump could, let's say, declare and come out of this NATO summit and say, yes, we are going to be selling those F-35. The problem is that actually getting that sale done would require a U.S. congressional act, because they're the ones who implemented those sanctions and who passed that law on the sanctions. So they would have to authorize that sale. Whether Donald Trump has the power to force Congress to side with him on this one, we'll have to wait and see. There's also the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu very publicly just today or yesterday saying we don't want the U.S. to sell F-35s to Turkey. The other option would be for Turkey to get rid of those Russian defense systems. That is going to be also very hard to do for the Turks.
And beyond this particular meeting with President Erdogan, at this summit overall, it does seem that the European members of NATO are working really hard to try and please Donald Trump, particularly on this question of arms sales. What's your sense as to how it's going? It's early days, but so far.
Well, look, as we saw from Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, they're really pulling out all the stops to give Donald Trump actual concrete elements to show him we have heard your call and we are stepping up. We are sharing the burden. We are no longer the ones who are benefiting from the United States without doing our fair share. But if they thought that it was going to be that easy, the few comments that Donald Trump made about especially the European allies during that bilateral with the Turkish leader, it seems that it's not working that well, because obviously there's still those comments by Donald Trump that the United States has spent millions defending NATO and especially the Europeans, and they're not doing anything for us. But added to the fact that he feels the Europeans are not paying enough, there's also now, and even more so it seems for Donald Trump, the frustration about European leaders not coming to help him, quote unquote, during his war with Iran. And he repeated that today again and again, and listing some of the countries who have declined his call. And he even said, I didn't need their help. I was testing them to see if they would be there for us the way we were there for them. So you see there that really showing that you're spending money on defense is actually not enough for Donald Trump. He also had a few small jabs here and there for Keir Starmer, for Giorgia Meloni, even though they're much tamer than we've seen in the past. Other things to watch out for the Europeans that might start yet another crisis. We're back to talking about taking over Greenland. Donald Trump saying the U.S. should control Greenland. and once again talking about, well, we could also remove all of our soldiers from Europe.
If you often feel your blood pressure is on the higher side, we recommend eating 2 pieces of...
All right. That's the end of my broadcast. Please help support the work that I do by sharing the links, asking your social media to follow me, and get the great products that I offer. This will, if you follow the protocol, it will help to slow down the aging process. And it's really simple. Probiotics, Max 35, C60, the turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans, the Boomer Boost. That is a great stack to be able to slow down the aging process. But you can customize it. You can pick other supplements that I offer that will target certain things in your body based on your affordability. So please go to my store, take a look at the great supplements I offer, and these are supplements that I take every day. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.